Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Create a Unified Customer View with Identity Resolution. My name is JC Quimbao, Marketing Manager here at ARM Treasure Data. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Nick Kobayashi. He's a Senior Product Manager at ARM Treasure Data. He's currently leading the identity services, which includes identity resolution and profile management. Previous to ARM Treasure Data, Nick has held product roles at Oracle Data Cloud, ComScore, and Proximic. For some quick housekeeping, an on-demand version of this webinar will be available on our channel. Feel free to view and download the attachments below your screen. Lastly, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions during or after today's session, please submit them below and we will do our best to answer them. Without further ado, Nick, take it away.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the introduction, JC, and thank you all for joining today. Let's get started. So from our unique position in the market, we hear marketers expressing some of their biggest obstacles and challenges, which typically fit into these three themes. The first is how they navigate the post-third-party cookie world. So Safari, Chrome, and Firefox have all released or announced their intentions to prevent the industry's reliance on third-party cookies. And with Chrome's 70% market share of global browsers and the recent announcement to deprecate third-party cookies in the next 2 years, there's urgency to understand the landscape and develop a strategy in the post-cookie world. The second is privacy and compliance. GDPR was the first wave with CCPA and other major regional regulations in place, making handling consent and privacy more complex than ever. And lastly, rich customer data is hidden and it's fragmented in both systems and organizational silos. And it's difficult for marketers to deliver a personalized experience across the customer journey, across an enterprise. Especially with our current circumstances, budgets are tight, and it's important now more than ever to drive efficiencies in our marketing activity. So customer data ownership is the key to solving each of these challenges. Managing customer data holistically to create a unified customer view is the only way to curate in order to curate addressable identities that extend past third-party cookies. Collecting data directly from the consumer minimizes risk since it gives the marketer an opportunity to collect consent preferences and also be able to understand what countries or regions the data was collected in order to meet local privacy regulations. So starting at a high level, customer data ownership starts with collecting first-party data and ingesting it into a customer data platform. Once in the customer data platform, in order to make sense of the data fragments from each of your sources, identity resolution is the critical element that ties all of these rich insights together to create the unified customer view. That would eventually be able to be used to run marketing campaigns and personalize your interactions with your customers. And we can look to data-driven marketing leaders like Facebook, Amazon, and Netflix to understand the power to customer data ownership. Very few have the same level of scale, but we can look at their actions to understand how important collecting and managing first-party data is to them to create their competitive differentiation. So for example, Walmart recently acquired Jet to build out its e-commerce efforts based on Jet's customer data. In the CPG landscape, we're starting to see them acquire direct-to-consumer products in order to build a marketing advertising strategy centered around first-party data. Before we dive too far, let's level set and understand what exactly is identity resolution. Identity resolution is the ability to persistently recognize a unique entity across all digital and physical channels to build a rich profile in order to personalize the customer experience. I want to highlight this word, entity. And entity can be an individual or a consumer, but can also vary depending on your use case. So for example, a gaming company might want to model their customer data using individual and households in order to influence parents of the home to buy a video game for their children. In B2B, the individual is considered a contact with a relationship to an account. So what are some of the benefits of identity resolution? Identity resolution enables marketers to accurately identify the customer across channels, be they email, websites, programmatic advertising, direct mail, or even customer service. Through identity resolution, you're able to unlock customer insights that were previously hidden between data silos or data fragments of the profile. You're able to improve marketing efficiency by targeting fewer profiles via frequency capping and better segmentation. And lastly, now that you have a unified customer view, you can better identify opportunities for cross-sell and customer retention. So I'm sure you've heard a lot about identity resolution in the market. And you've heard about different technologies that talk about their identity resolution capabilities. But there's some differences in that, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. So and also for us, we also hear a lot of questions around how identity resolution in the CDP compares to a third-party identity provider like a LiveRamp or an Axiom or a Neustar. And the truth is that one doesn't replace the other, and actually a complementary approach is recommended for the best results. And this is because the quality of your identity resolution starts with the data you have available. When we compare identity resolution, what we're going to do is we're going to compare that against these 4 criteria. The first is data ownership. The second one is data types. The third is supported IDs, and then we'll talk about the use cases that they serve. So in terms of data ownership, a CDP is typically purchased by the marketing or IT department to serve customer experience use cases, and it's your platform for customer data. For the third-party identity provider, the data is owned by the provider, and it's licensed by the marketer, and it's treated as a data source. In terms of data types, we typically synonymize CDPs with only supporting first-party data. This isn't true for ARM Treasure Data CDP because we're able to ingest first, second, and third-party data into the platform. Third-party identity providers, on the other hand, primarily deliver third-party data. They may ingest first-party data for the purposes of onboarding, which is the converting of PII data to anonymous data like cookies and mobile app IDs, but they're using their third-party data as the backbone of that service, and they're delivering back those identities based off of that third-party identity graph that they have. In terms of supported IDs, unlike many other technologies in the MarTech landscape, the CDP is able to ingest and unify both custom IDs, like an internal customer ID or a CRM ID, as well as addressable IDs, which are identities that can be transacted on through activations. So that would include emails, phone numbers, cookies, and mobile app IDs. Third-party identity providers have built their identity graph based off of third-party data, which is why they only support addressable IDs. So since the CDP is your platform for customer data, identity resolution creates the truly unified customer view and enables omni-channel activation and personalization, better analytics, and it can improve your customer service experiences. The third-party identity providers provide a knowledge graph, and that knowledge graph can be informed based off of years of public data, such as census data, or private data that they might license through publishers and deterministic data sources. This knowledge graph is used to enrich the identities of your profile so in terms of what you know and about your customer, and it can also assist with data cleansing and data hygiene. Again, because they are providing this knowledge graph based off of rich historical data that they've collected. The unified customer view needs to be at the center of your MarTech stack and architecture. Leveraging first-party data provides rich, reliable, accurate data, while third-party data enriches the profile for completeness to improve reach and what you know. Right? So your first-party data is going to be very skewed towards your vertical. Right? So if you're a gaming customer or a gaming in the gaming market, a lot of your data that you collect is going to be related to gaming activity or preferences and things like that. But you might not know much about their demographics or where they live and these other types of attributes of the user. And that's where the third-party data can really complete that, so that what you know about the customer isn't skewed towards your particular business or the particular product that you offer. So let's now talk about how identity resolution works. The first step in identity resolution is to collect all your customer data into a single platform. A rich set of integrations allows you to connect directly to the data source and ease data governance between platforms. The ARM Treasure Data CDP is schemaless, which allows for extreme flexibility. It allows you to first think about pushing data into the CDP directly, and then think about how to format the data later on. Most other platforms will require strict schema definitions to be defined up front, which creates an opportunity for breaking changes when new data is added to the data source, and also many times they actually require an ETL platform to be between your CDP and the original source. The second step is data cleansing. Dirty data in creates dirty data out. Each of our source systems will have unique schemas, primary IDs, and varying levels of data quality. Cleaning the data entails standardization and validation in order to prep the data for the next step. And like I just mentioned, some platforms will require this data cleansing to happen in a third-party service in an ETL platform. While at Treasure Data, this is all baked into our product. The third step is identity stitching. We can collect customer data from any source to unify IDs to be matched, so they can be resolved into a master customer record, also known as a canonical ID. Customers can configure identity resolution rules by source. So, for example, you can assign you can give priority based off of a particular source. So, in order to define what email to use, you might prefer an email that was provided from shipping information, more reliable than the email that was provided from a web form. That all of that can be configured during the configuration of your identity stitching. You can also define how often IDs should be merged or updated. And so actually the output of identity stitching is what we call an identity graph and a private identity graph. And what a private identity graph is that it's a mapping of all the identities associated to that profile. At ARM Treasure Data, we provide out-of-the-box functionality to accomplish this type of matching using our algorithms. So there's different types of identity stitching. There's fuzzy matching, deterministic, and probabilistic matching. Each of these serve a different use case. Fuzzy matching is the ability to analyze strings that approximately match a pattern. This is used to match PII data, such as names and home addresses. So for example, fuzzy matching will be able to tell you that Joe Smith and Joseph Smith are the same person, even though they're spelled differently. You can use this to resolve PII data sources like CRM and customer support data, where you have someone's account information. Deterministic matching is the ability to create relationships based off of directly observed linkages. Out of the three, this is the most common and accurate way to resolve identities. An example of this is when a user authenticates on your website. At that moment, you're able to resolve that cookie ID of the browser with the user's email. This is typically used for, deterministic matching is typically used for email marketing or activations to social channels like a Facebook, YouTube, or Snapchat. And lastly, there's probabilistic matching. And probabilistic matching is when relationships are created based off of predictive algorithms. And the algorithm looks at common characteristics, such as IP address or time of day or other signals to roughly match identities together. Probabilistic matching is key when you want to optimize for reach and scale on the open web, like on DSPs and ad exchanges. Each of these methods for identity stitching has its place in the customer journey, and it's possible to create multiple identity graphs in your customer data platform using each of these methods of stitching or different types of stitching rules to best serve your use case. So for example, in a call center situation, you're going to want to make sure that stitching is very strict and accurate because you're interacting directly with that consumer. When it comes to email marketing, you might have looser deterministic matching compared to the call center. And for programmatic advertising, when you want to optimize for scale over accuracy, probabilistic matching is best. So in the final step, we create the unified customer view. The identity graph was produced from the identity stitching, and it's applied to create a new unified lens on your data. You're able to now understand all the behaviors and events, user attributes, and identities associated to your customer, enabling a holistic view of your customer. There it is. This diagram is a classic customer journey, and it shows how the unified customer view can be used at every step to improve the customer experience and grow customer loyalty. At ARM Treasury Data, we differentiate on the ability to support the entire customer journey. So let's first look at the pre-sale side. In terms of the upper funnel, we have discovery and awareness. And the objective here is to drive awareness of your brand and trigger interest. The unified customer view helps brands build awareness by understanding as much as you can about that individual, and allows you to segment audiences for marketing activation. In the consideration stage, we're able to offer tools to help customers evaluate options and develop a preference. You can deliver personalized web experiences based on the customer that is identified. We can also help understand whether specific customers have a high propensity and deliver a personalized offer based off of that. And in the purchase and buying stage, we want to help customers execute a fast, convenient, and secure transaction. So that's where the unified customer view can power recommendation engines to deliver relevant products and also optimize and customize the in-person buying experience based off of historical preferences. Now, when it comes to the post-sale side, that's also where the unified customer view is very important. And so in the first stage, we have product adoption and usage. And in this stage, this is where we want to drive the light of the customer and drive that usage. So that usage and interaction data can help customers truly deliver a marketing-driven product development cycle. And predictive modeling can be used to understand churn or upsell propensity. And in customer service, this is where we want to empower self-service customer support so they can solve problems quickly. And the unified customer view can be used to power these real-time customer service use cases. We've helped retailers in the past deliver informed guidance in-store based on customer preferences. And lastly, we have engagement and growing loyalty. The unified customer view can be leveraged in loyalty programs to deliver the right offers at the right time. So managing your customer data is important now more than ever, given that third-party cookies are being deprecated, and the complexities of privacy and compliance, as well as the evolving customer expectations. And creating a unified, complete customer view requires comprehensive identity resolution capabilities. And a unified customer view enables marketers to personalize the entire customer journey while introducing efficiencies along the way. Thank you for joining today. We'll now open up the webinar to the Q&A portion.
Awesome. Great work, Nick. Thank you for the great presentation. Yeah, we'll now take some questions from the audience. So we have the first one here. So why are browsers doing away with cookies when this, I'm assuming, a great avenue for them to market their customers or consumers?
Yeah, so browsers are starting to kind of deprecate cookies because of some of the motivation of giving users more access to their customer data. And a lot of times, third-party cookies have been used to be collected by third-party services. So a lot of times, when you're able to see all the requests that are happening on your browser, people are looking at this and saying, "Hey, I'm interacting with maybe Gap, and why is there all these different tags collecting my data that I don't actually have a relationship with?" And some of that lack of understanding of what that data is used for is why a lot of people today are then asking for more proactive privacy requirements. And that's why browsers are now starting to, in order to kind of maintain their market share and for people to continue to use their browsers, which is why they're starting to deprecate third-party cookies.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we got another one. Do CDPs only handle first-party data or also second and third-party?
Yeah, that's a great question. And CDPs are able to handle not only first-party data, but also second and third-party data. And at ARM Treasure Data, what we see many times is that the use case maybe starts with first-party, right? Because that is where a lot of their rich insights are on their customers. So a lot of times our marketers will start with that use case to basically bring all this data into the platform to start to have that single view based on all these previously fragmented data. And then the next step is then the enrichment phase. So now that they have this understanding of the profile, for the first time they can actually see a customer that is truly influenced based off of CRM, customer service experiences, web visits, purchases, whether those are e-commerce or also in-store. They now have this entire view, and when they get to activation or upper funnel use cases, that's where a lot of third-party data and second-party data comes in. And so at ARM Treasure Data, we're able to bring that in. We treat that as another data source, and we have direct integrations with third-party and second-party vendors. For example, like LiveRamp and Axiom and all the big identity providers. We're also able to bring in data from DMPs as well, or the data providers directly.
Okay, thank you. We have another one. So if I have a CDP, do I also need a DMP or vice versa?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And I think things that what our industry has been asking a lot lately, as we learn more about CDPs and the capabilities that they have. So between a CDP, DMP, and CRM, which are probably the most commonly compared technologies that manage customer data. The CDP was really born out of the need of being able to look at a customer in an omni-channel way, right? So first kind of came the CRM, right, where a lot of that was more on the sales side and support side, and it was really on the known customer, right? So because it was mostly driven by PII data. And from that, there was also all this explosion of traffic on the open web, on websites and browsers, and that's where the DMP was kind of spawned to start to capture that cookie data and enrich it with third-party data. But now is kind of the time where a marketer is starting to see that their customer is interacting with them across all these different channels, and there's even more digital channels that are starting to kind of explode. So for example, addressable TV is becoming more mature and more accessible. Also chatbots and many others. And a lot of those platforms don't rely on cookies, right? They rely on another type of identity, whether those are mobile app IDs or emails or phone numbers, all these different types of identities. And so that's where the CDP comes in. So in terms of the question, if I have a CDP, do I need a DMP as well? A lot of times you might already have a DMP, and your marketing teams or advertising teams or agencies are already using that technology. The CDP can still fit in there to influence and standardize your taxonomy of the customer data, right? And that's where you start to see a lot of efficiencies. We also see customers that are using the CDP directly for some of those use cases as well. So where they actually don't have a DMP anymore, and they're bringing that third-party data in directly. So we really see both use cases, and it really depends on your objectives and the types of efficiencies that you're looking for. But both models work. But the customer data platform again should be that center of your MarTech architecture.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Yeah, it looks like we have another one that's almost like based off that question. So does your platform handle unknown visitor data? So like before someone gives their email to the brand?
Yes. So we do have a JavaScript SDK and a mobile app SDK where we're able to collect cookie data or mobile app data so it doesn't have to be just emails or phone numbers and that known data. We can also collect the anonymous side and again the upper funnel part of your interactions. We can also collect that data as well.
Okay, and one more question, or the last one we have in front of us is, what rate of duplication do you typically see in customer IDs?
Yeah, so this obviously depends and ranges depending on the types of customer data that you have available. So just like when it comes to data cleansing, dirty data in produces dirty data out, right? So the data in is extremely important to have effective identity resolution. But we have customers that have hundreds of millions of profiles, and through identity resolution, based off of their first-party data, they were already able to see upwards of 20% reduction after our identity resolution. And by doing that 20% reduction was huge for them to make sure that they were able to offer these personalized experiences in order to make sure that they're using their marketing budget efficiently by not over-targeting and over-segmenting a user just because, you know, a profile or a user had different identities that weren't previously stitched together, or that data was being used in different platforms, maybe just in an email marketing platform or a DSP.
Okay, actually, it looks like we have one more. So does CDP support identifying prospects?
Yeah, so a CDP is able to support prospecting use cases, and the way by doing that is a lot of times that data might be the way to identify those users are usually on either a cookie or a mobile app ID, and so like I mentioned, we're able to bring in that data, but in addition to that, because we're able to bring in second and third party data to enrich that profile could actually even be started with purely that second or third party data. So it doesn't have to that third party and second party data doesn't have to be just an append to a first party profile. They can also be the start of that profile. And so by doing that, you can start to build segments in the CDP based off of these users that you haven't necessarily interacted with directly. But start to segment them in the CDP and then target them. And then eventually, once you interact with them more and able to capture more data, you can eventually lead them to providing their email in some type of way or contacting you, and then stitch those identities together to move them down the funnel.
Okay, it looks like that was the last one. Thank you again, Nick, for the insightful presentation. So a quick reminder to everyone, the recording of Nick's presentation will be available for on-demand. Don't forget to visit our BrightTalk channel and check out our upcoming webinars. And on behalf of ARM Treasure Data, thank you everyone again for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you later. Thanks, Nick. Bye.
Bye.